Let's do it. That's a count.
Right now. Right, how are you doing? I want to have discussions.
You're good with it.
Out in the hall. That's fine. I'm not
For alcohol.
Yes and no. You're going to say no.
Sounds like yes,
You're
right?
going to say no, and I'm going to say no, Ray.
I always listen to you.
Celebrate Easter, Thanksgiving.
Listen to me, then you do what you want to anyway.
There you go.
You know what, Ray, though, if I wasn't here to tell you what I thought, I always bring a different perspective.
Yeah.
That way you can look at both sides, right?
Didn't learn off that first time.
See, you showed it to me. Then my
Tracy, how are you?
Well, I'm actually ready to go to that till Wednesday. Yeah.
It's not changing anything.
Well, obviously it is. Well, I'm gonna ask. I mean, why are we doing it? I don't even know what we're doing, and I'm already saying, why are we doing it?
We're doing this so it's someone writing with us. It's not writing.
That isn't for any.
Or take down one.
Ha!
Which one?
The only thing in the code that talks about is time, I assume that's what we're talking about, is the terms.
We're just clarifying. We're not changing.
Well, you know me, I'll speak up. Like I said, I don't even know what it is. I'm anxious to find out. You got a copy of this resolution? It says you have the resolution.
Well, I had it Friday, Thursday.
Good one, Ray.
I had it Thursday.
Well, it looks like it's 9 o'clock. Shall we say our pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, one and all. Jim?
Sure.
Okay, with the exception, we're going to change the order just a bit. Item 8 will move up right behind item 4. Nancy would like to get back to work. So, okay. That's been moved. Did you second that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Call for vote. Primer, aye.
Aye.
How about the minutes? Get a chance to look the minutes over, gentlemen.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded to approve those minutes. Call for vote. Primer, aye.
Aye. Pearson, aye.
Very good. Item 4 is Mr. Lau.
Yeah, I was asked to prepare a resolution clarifying or essentially establishing the terms of the position of Board of Supervisor. This resolution doesn't change anything, it just puts in writing our current practice. So, you know, it's just, there's nothing in our handbook, talks about, you know, hours or benefits or anything for the board, so that's why I did it.
Jill has a question.
I just would like a copy of whatever we're talking about, or if somebody could read it, so
The agenda or what this?
what Ray's talking about.
Okay.
It says, whereas the office of the Benton County Supervisor is an elected position, and whereas the county wishes to encourage qualified individuals to run for the position, and whereas the hours of a Benton County Supervisor fluctuate and are often difficult to predict, and whereas the hours to be worked and the benefits to be received are not clearly specified in the county's handbook, and now therefore be it resolved by the Benton County Board of Supervisors that the office of Benton County Supervisor shall be a part-time position with the eligibility for full-time insurance coverage along with benefits available to all full-time employees. That's it.
I have a question on that. Right now, the handbook states that the county offers insurance to both full-time and part-time employees. However, a part-time employee pays the full health insurance premium. It is not compensated by the county. I just want to bring that to the attention.
So,
This doesn't propose any changes whatsoever.
It would be a change to the handbook, though, wouldn't it?
Well, the handbook doesn't address it at all, so I guess in that sense, yeah.
The handbook does address health insurance, though, whether it's you're a part-time or full-time employee. So being that that's part of my job, I need to know how to address that in payroll.
Well, and the board, I guess, would have to, I mean, you pay full-time benefits now to the board, right?
Correct. Yeah.
All three of them do take benefit. The current supervisors do take health insurance benefits.
Right. And we pay for that.
They are just like a normal Benton County employee. They get the same rate and compensation that a non-union employee gets.
Jill, you had another question?
well,
See your hand.
it's not necessarily, you know me. If it doesn't change anything, why are we doing it? Is my first question. My second question, or statement, question, whatever. I was in the auditor's office, as you guys know, for 24 years, and I listened to various board of supervisors say the job was a full-time job. Maybe you're not in here full-time, but with meetings and phone calls and meeting with the public, it was a full-time job. Never questioned that. You know, I listened to those arguments being made to comp board members over the years. I think the comp board agreed that the supervisors were a full-time job. So I guess, as a taxpayer, I want to know why we want to make it part-time. Is that so we're not feeling guilty if we're not putting in the hours? You know, do you guys feel that you put in a full-time week as supervisors? So again, I'm coming back to why are we changing this now when 2 board members are going off the board in 2 weeks? Why wouldn't this be something up to the new board? And when I started with Benton County back in 1982, I started as a part-time employee. I worked midnights, I worked weekends, I worked holidays. I didn't get any county benefits. No overtime, no holiday pay, no health insurance. I was glad to have a job. When I became a full-time employee, and especially when I became auditor, I never felt that I was any better than any part-time employee. I got compensated more because of my responsibilities, but I was no better. So why would we have a part-time job as a supervisor getting full-time benefits? If you want to go part-time, that's great, whatever. You know, hopefully we can save the county some money, but I'm just concerned as to why. What are my expectations? Am I going to get less as a from the supervisors now? Is my,
Thank you.
And that's my question, what's the reason? Just obviously, there's a reason for this, what's the actual reason?
I was just asked to clarify it so it would be clear.
Well, was this ever discussed in a board meeting?
Sheriff?
I've asked for the clarification, and it deals with IPERS. IPERS says that you can have a bona fide retirement if you go from a full-time IPERS position to a part-time IPERS position. So I did some research, and we are listed as it is listed on some websites as a full-time position. There are counties that list it as a part-time position. I couldn't get a reasoning as to, and the other counties I spoke with, they also offer the health insurance benefit as a part-time position. But it was just the way they did it. They couldn't get an answer other than, well, they don't put in a consecutive 40-hour week. Some weeks maybe yes, some weeks maybe no.
So you wanted a part-time position?
Yes.
So what's, like you said, what's the difference between it now and before? What's it
Now-
changing? If it's not changing anything, what are we changing?
It's an IPERS rule. An IPERS rule, it doesn't change the benefits. The IPERS rule says that if you go from a full-time elected position to a part-time elected position, you can receive your bona fide IPERS retirement.
So why is the supervisors any different than the auditor or the treasurer? You know, I retired so that I could spend time with my grandkids. If I could have just called a part-time job, then I could have gotten my IPERS.
It has to be elected.
Well, auditor is elected.
No, the part-time job.
No, it does, not for auditor.
For IPERS it does. There's,
No, what I'm saying is, why stop with supervisors then? Let's make the auditor part-time. Or the treasurer, or any elected position other than yours.
I have another question,
Yes,
and this is pertaining to my job. So if we go from full-time to part-time, is that gonna change their salary? Do I need to make that adjustment as well?
You can't.
Because the comp board does that.
Okay,
So they'll get full-time wage, full-time benefits for part-time work.
I've always had, myself, I've always heard it termed as a part-time position. But it is listed on a website, on the ISAC website, as full-time. There are other counties that list it as part-time. But they still offer the health insurance benefit, but it has to be paid by the supervisor at the same rate as the full-time employees.
if I may, fellas, this is the page out of the handbook which would have to be changed. If you want to pass that on, this was forwarded to me.
It's gotta change something.
And I'll also state that several, obviously many years back when I ran for the office, I understood it to be a part-time position. And at that time, when, after being elected, I was amazed to know that I could get health insurance. I didn't know it was a full-time position.
because of the Affordable Care Act, we have to offer health insurance to those that average 30 hours a week.
So it could be changed to where full-time employees and elected officials on that handbook, we're doing handbook changes. Or all elected officials, however you may wish to put it, for the cost of insurance. And I understand Ron's come from with this, get the clarification. And I'll ask, did you fellas realize it was listed as a full-time position?
I did not.
Gary? Nope. And the number of boards that we're on, obviously, you put a lot of hours in other than just our regular meetings, so. Would this have effect on any other employees in the county Do we have any, I don't know of any other elected part-time employees? Okay, so this is just counting the supervisors, basically.
Right now, all elected officials are equally, considered equally.
So it's a handbook change, really. Doug, you have a question?
Just a quick one. Back to Jill's point, what other hidden things might be there that going from full-time to part-time benefits? Or is there any?
Well, in this situation, you're talking about elected part-time only. That's what makes this different.
Would there be anything with work comp or any of that type of scenario?
What other hidden things switching just from full-time to part-time?
I couldn't foresee any work comp things that'd be different. You
Hasn't
gotta
been
provide work
researched.
comp to anybody that works.
Okay.
Works for, not contracts with, but works for the county.
When the county pays their bond, is that based on full-time
I'd have to
position?
look, because that was just discussed at our recent Heartland meeting too. But I mentioned that to Ray too, we need to check into that a little more. Because they're questioning if we, right now we have the blanket coverage overall, or if we have to individualize that per position.
Well, I'm guessing the county attorney's office has researched this, is that correct?
Yes, especially the IPER side of it.
What about the other aspects, like I just mentioned, work comp? Somebody slips and falls and, becomes disabled coming through the door on county property.
It shouldn't matter if they're full-time or part-time. If they slip and fall as an employee on our property, we're responsible.
Okay. Which, I'm pretty easy with this because, again, I thought it was a part-time position and was amazed to find out it was listed as full-time. I'm not surprised, but.
You all don't punch a clock, right?
No.
So
No.
you have no set schedule. Maybe one week you work 20 hours because it's a slow week, and the next week it's not slow and you work 40 or 45. Your salary's not based on an hourly wage, it's based on a position. So I guess if it's just for IPERS to have the distinction between full and part-time, the rest of it, without a time clock, I mean, nobody's gonna be able to record how many phone calls you get, or how many meetings you get, or where you're gonna be here, or you're here and you got called up to Vinton for this. I mean, unless you have a specific amount of hours, it doesn't seem like it's other than IPERS being the distinction of full and part-time, the rest of it is, as far as insurance and everything else goes, is a wash. There's really no, how can you?
So a question to
Justify it.
Nancy, following up on what he said, if it's part-time position, you don't withhold IPERS, because you won't know how many hours they've worked.
We do with part-time,
If you know how many hours they worked.
and that's different with an elected official, you're correct?
Yeah,
And
so
that's
you
one
guys
thing
won't-
I'd have to, Rick called me yesterday and asked me questions, and I told him I need to reach out to IPERS, but I need to know my exact scenario before I call them and say, how do I
So if they don't report their hours to you,
No, they do.
part-time,
Which-
you can't withhold IPERS, so you guys
But
won't be
again-
eligible for IPERS.
Joe, if I may, this is not an hourly position, this is a salary position. So we already know what that amount is.
Right.
But she won't know the number of hours.
For reporting to IPERS, they have specific requirements. that
They do have to have hours for.
You have to
reporting
report
items.
so many things to IPERS in a specific way, because we get IPERS audited on top of additional audits.
Isn't that interesting?
So,
because I don't hand in hours either, and I pay diapers.
No, but
Right,
it's
but we're-
programmed in that it is a full-time position, so it's this X amount of hours.
That's where your software handles it, right?
Yeah. But we have to,
he has to know, it
we
has
have to know that to program it.
So if this is going to a part-time position, do they want to be eligible for IPERS? I don't get what we're switching here.
Well, IPERS does have a form. It's called an election for termination of IPERS coverage. And in order to opt out of IPERS, you have to check the box, and it specifically says part-time elected county supervisor. And then you have to select if you're elected or appointed. A full-time does not fall under their termination coverage that they provide.
So basically, you want to be able to draw your sheriff's office IPERS and work part-time as a supervisor?
Yep.
And not.
And I'm not gonna report, I'm not gonna pay into IPERS anymore.
If this passes.
Yep.
Of which means the county would not, do a match on the IPERS either.
Right.
But what if everybody doesn't want to do it like Ron though? What if there's people that get on the board and don't want to be part-time? Or considered part-time and they want their IPERS?
They can
You
always
can
come back
still do
and
the
change it.
IPERS as part-time.
Always come back and
They
change
could,
it.
they could.
Come back and change.
They could.
But you can still report the IPERS on a part-time
Right.
elected supervisor's position.
The only
If
time-
you so choose.
The only time a part-timer can opt out is if they complete this form and submit it to IPERS.
And if they're part-time.
And
And
elected.
it has to be a part-time elected
That's the key.
supervisor.
I get it
is
now.
specific to the position.
Right.
I've heard out of you gentlemen.
Well, if you're switching from part-time to full-time, whatever, does IFRS have limits of what gets put in?
That's unemployment.
Well, I'm just saying per each person, whatever they elect to put in. But is there a max you can put in?
The
What I'm trying to get
IFRS
to
gives
is-
you the percentage.
Correct.
And they set it each year, and the employee pays in a percentage, and the employer pays in a percentage.
Up to a certain amount?
No,
There's no limit?
there's
Okay.
no limit.
But like different classifications, so conservation or.
The law
police
enforcement
yeah, they would have
has their
different
own rate. Elected officials have their own rate. Non-union people, we have a specific rate, and they're not all the same. Our law enforcement actually pays in at a higher rate, just to give you an example.
Is that gonna change if these guys go from full-time to part-time?
No, because IPERS sets those percentages and rates, we have nothing to do with that.
So it won't say the county IPERS match, is what you're saying, by going part-time.
If the individual, if we go part-time and if individual opts out, we would not pay the county percentage for that individual. We would still pay on the other part-time individuals that want to pay into IPERS. Is
So
that
when you
your
have a
question?
part-time elected supervisor, from what you're saying, then you don't have to keep track of their hours. It's gonna be a percentage regardless.
Correct. Well, I have to program in to say that they're part-time and what that means.
Any other part-time employee right now, it's based on their number of hours. They have to work so many hours to get IPERS coverage.
No, they work part-time, they pay into IPERS. The only one that does not pay into IPERS right now would be a seasonal employee, would be a reserve police officer. They have specific positions that does and does not pay in.
So then going to part-time supervisors is not gonna save the county any money as far as an IPERS match.
Correct, you are right. The only way it would save is if an individual would elect not to participate in IPERS. So we would have 3 supervisors and say one fills out this form and submits it, I'm not gonna pay in to IPERS. So then we, as a county, would not be paying a percentage on that individual.
I understand that.
Okay.
So basically, it's not going to cost the county any more IPERS-wise, whether they're classified as full or part-time. That's not going to change what the county pays unless they opt out.
Correct.
I still, and this is my opinion only, when you tell me you're part-time, my expectation of the number of hours you work drops down to here instead of up here. And you're being paid up here, and you want all the benefits up here, but you want me down here for time served. That's my opinion only.
Fellas?
I consider it a part-time job, but then again, I get calls 7 days a week, I get called at night, I get talked to at church, at functions, you know.
So it's not part-time?
I'm just saying that, you know, where do you draw the line?
I've been a taxpayer since 1973, moved back to town. I assumed the supervisors was a part-time position that probably worked more than a full-time position, and benefits accordingly. I mean, just, it was always part-time, but you knew how much, and then the more I've been around, the more I know how many hours you guys put in. So it's been my perception all along. I never expected less out of you because it's part-time.
Thank you, Mike.
And also too, Rick, you made a good point, is the county attorney here didn't check absolutely everything, like you said, the work comp thing and everything and all that. It's what other things are there that are attached when you switch. I would be really careful that way, because you don't know. You better look at all of it.
Gary? Haven't heard from you.
This is more or less Greek to me. I mean, it's quite a deal.
Yeah.
I took the job. I don't think that, well, it wouldn't have affected whether I wanted the job or not. I took the job, takes how many hours. I don't keep track of the hours.
Well, that's basically what I said, Gary, was, you know, I thought it was a part-time position, at least officially, and was pleasantly surprised when I learned that I got benefits. So, and the result of those benefits, whether it was because it was listed as full-time or part-time, I didn't know, obviously. So, but, yeah. Okay. So, do you fellows wish to table this week until the full benefit scenario can be looked at, which is going to be, you know, include work comp?
I suppose it'd be smart, so we look at all options on this. You know, I still figure it's a part-time job, that's my opinion. Lynn County, their supervisors have their own offices down there. Johnson County, they have their own offices. This is our office, right here, every Tuesday. Everything else comes home to my house. I store everything in my filing cabinet. It's my laptop.
You guys used to have your own desk at the courthouse.
Yes, we did.
I mean,
We moved out in order to come over here, and, you know, I don't take everything home every week. I've got a corner.
and Lynn
Not a very
County,
big corner.
And years ago, supervisors came in on their off day when there wasn't meetings and worked so that the public could come in and see them.
Well,
I'll move to table it.
so it can be looked at, and researched, and then brought back to us. All right.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded to table this discussion as to full or part-time position. Call for vote. Trevor, aye.
Seaman, aye.
Beershank, aye.
Thank you, Ray, and your office will carry
Yeah.
into this some more.
Yeah, I don't see any issues with work comp, but I'll look through it all again
Well,
anyway.
not just work.
Right, I know.
Whatever else may be.
Also, and we're gonna go to item 8 next. Item 5 is that MOU that we passed the resolution on last time I was here, so I have a hearing in court here in a few minutes, but
Okay, well,
if you have questions, you can always table it.
And he knows I'm gonna follow him out in the hall and delay him even more.
Ray, do you have a copy of that MOU with you?
I sent it to you guys last week.
Okay, does anybody print it?
I did.
Because we did approve the resolution, because I think Chelsea, they already signed it.
Yeah, they already signed it, and I sent it to you.
Okay.
Find the stupid hole. Sorry.
Right here.
Well, if you approve to sign it, you can send it to the warehouse. I don't
I think we discussed it.
discuss it, I don't have a copy of it. I don't have a copy of it, so maybe you just send it to you guys.
Item 8. Okay.
But as Dave mentioned, Bonnie's not able to come today.
Okay.
Um, So this will be similar to what we did a few weeks prior with Mark Merchant, asking, somebody in need. They've used up all their sick time, and with our handbook, right now it states that another employee can only donate up to 20 hours. So we're asking for an exception. We have an employee who's willing to donate more than the 20 hours to her. So we just need your formal approval on that.
And if I heard David correctly, before the meeting, she didn't necessarily need it in closed session,
Right.
so.
Yep.
All right.
So,
Is there a certain number of hours we need to approve?
How much were you willing to give, the 3?
I would like to donate my remaining balance.
Because he'll lose it.
I donated 400 to Mark Merchant, I have about 350 left, I'd like to give to Bonnie.
I gave it to him.
Okay.
Actually, it's 348 after
48.
this pay period.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time you get to the next pay period, it could be 3.
Okay,
So you can say the balance.
just the balance?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So gentlemen, I will need a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant, as of right now, Deputy UPAS, remaining balance on his sick leave to Bonnie Ellinger.
That's correct.
That's my motion.
Second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded on that donation. I'll call for vote. Primer, aye.
Seaman, aye.
Your St. I.
Very kind of you, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5 was the review and signing of the MOU for opioid treatment services with ASAP. Do you remember discussing that?
I'm looking, I don't see the copy, but if we can look or write an email, we can get it printed and you guys can still sign it today.
Okay,
Because we approved the resolution to
so should we
enter in.
just?
I would go ahead and take an action on it, and then I'll get you a copy to sign.
Sorry, what was it?
Go ahead and take action, and then we'll get a copy to sign. Today, I'll print it, find one, or give him time to get back to his office and email it.
Do you recall discussing it?
It was a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
but you didn't see the MOU then?
I think we did.
I'm looking, and I know I was gone for 2 weeks, but I don't see the email.
It's been, let's move on to other things.
Exactly. Let's put this towards the end,
Okay.
if we can, please. All right. So that puts us with Myron. Morning.
Heavy truck dealers are getting a little bit more caught up on building trucks, putting them together, but they're still a ways out, so trying to get planned ahead for fiscal year '26. Equipment, arrival and payment. We took quotes for 2 tandem axle dump trucks, fully equipped with a new dump body box, a new plow mount, wing, and all the equipment, hydraulics to hook that up. We reached out to Truck Country in Cedar Rapids
Gator in Cedar Rapids and Truck Center in Elk Run Heights. And we received a quote back from Gator for a Mack Granite truck of $143,400 per truck. And from Truck Center Company from Elk Run Heights, a Freightliner 114 Severe Duty Plus for $132,303 per truck. The setup that we have found and prefer is using Henderson and Manchester package. They can put that on any of truck cabin chassis. The truck quote from Henderson for the body and all of the wing and all the assembly of it, $146,401 per truck. For about an $11,000 savings, I would recommend that we buy 2 Freightliner trucks from Truck Center Company and replace 2 of our trucks that are getting aged and need to be replaced.
Are they comparable in their features, et cetera?
Doug put together a very thorough specification. Each truck dealer read the specs but didn't read it thoroughly. He sat down with each of them and they revised each of their quotes from what was originally submitted. And what I present to you today is a line-by-line thorough breakdown with each dealer, assuring that the specification that we wanted and needed for our setup was met or exceeded.
I just have a quick question. Where does this fit into the budget at? I mean, as far as, or is this on top of, or is this included in, or how is this figured? And is the money available?
This would be fiscal year 26 money. The budget hasn't been set, but close to $1 million is what Secondary Roads has been budgeting the last few years for equipment replacement. So outside of looking at each exact item, during late COVID time period, you had to wait more than 12 months to get a truck, so you had to plan ahead. But from a county budget standpoint, you don't set the next fiscal year budget until, well, each department's working on them right now, but they get submitted and, it doesn't get approved until March of next year for July 1 through June 30th of that succeeding year.
Thank you. Which makes sense because of the lag, the difference in, you're just not gonna go up there and pick it up off the lot.
Correct.
Yeah, so. Gentlemen, did you have questions?
The Henderson package, that's blade, September, right?
That's the truck, the dump body, the front plow mount, the sander, the hydraulics, all that they manufacture and then install on the truck once it's delivered to them.
So the 557,000 and change, that's for total for 2 trucks.
2 trucks equipped,
Not a piece,
That's times 2.
correct,
Basically, yeah.
yes.
2 trucks.
The 557,000 would be 2 trucks and the dump body all set up, ready to use.
Okay.
And on the lower left side, there's that Henderson package, which shows everything included, which also shows the lighting for it.
Think the Freightliners will hold up better than the Max?
They both have their pluses and minuses. Our fleet's mixed, but exclusively between Freightliner and Mack. We found problems with both. We find pluses with both. So to say that one is stronger than the other, right now, from our experience, there's enough similarities, enough frustrations at times for some things but we feel those two have served our purpose. We've had occasions here in the last few years where maybe one manufacturer has been down for a strike or closed for other reasons, and if you are all exclusively one manufacturer, you're dead in the water at that point. You can still get parts with a mixed fleet and keep some things going, so.
Using
There,
that Detroit's in them, I'm guessing.
I can't recall, yeah.
That's on his line
Yep.
item, so, yeah, that's neither here nor there, it's just conversation.
Mhm.
So, okay. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay,
I've been trade liners for years myself.
okay. I'll make a motion to go ahead and purchase the two Frankliners for $557,408.
From Truck Center.
Correct, truck center.
Truck Center.
Second it.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded on the purchase of those two trucks. I'll call for vote. Primer, aye.
Seaman, aye.
Rushank, aye.
Thank you.
Mhm.
It's that one.
Multiple times in the last few months, Wayne Gibney, Rex Mail, and Pat Miles have been in about improving about a quarter-mile stretch in front of their place to a seal coat portion roadway. At the last meeting they were here, they expressed a willingness or an interest in paying for that project up front based on my estimated cost. They're still talking that, but in the past, when we have offered a improvement project like this, we have gone through the formal activity of a petition, contract waiver, and allowed them to do installment payments if they wanted to do so. If we're gonna offer that same approach there, we would need to set the interest rate for that. Just for, in this case, might be a formality, but just on the, in case between now and the end of the month, one of those three changes their mind and says, no, I would rather take the installment option and pay for that over multiple years. I think we need to get that interest rate established in part of that process right now. So I don't know how you have set that interest rate in the past. Haley and I briefly talked yesterday, and I know, it's kind of been based on where the interest rates have been over the years. I know at least 3 different projects that her and I were talking about had different rates. I know when the rates were really low, we had as low as 1.5%, but then I know we've done, I think the Urbana project was around 6% possibly, and I think it was either 4 or 6, and then when we did out by Rogers Park, it was the other, I know, but
I did talk to Melinda too a little bit yesterday on
I don't know if there's a recommendation from the
that.
treasurer.
She thought about 3%, so I'm looking at the spreadsheet with our CDs and stuff that we had. Some of them are ranging from 3 to 3.4. That's what we're getting on our
I thought it was
investment.
kind of tied to that.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right.
The last
So-
one we did, we only had the 1.5,
Mhm.
but they've gone up a little bit, so. But like Myron said, we may not even have to worry about that.
But as for these 3 individuals, they're gonna write a check right away, didn't they, or going to, or,
They would like to.
well, it wouldn't participate or pertain to them, right?
But we still want that verbiage in our petition contract just in case they change their mind, like you said, so.
Okay. Got it.
I'm of the feeling that 2 of the 3 are strongly in favor of doing that up front. I think the third one is also, but there was some hesitation, I felt, at the last meeting, and so I thought it would be best that we cover our bases on this end. I was gonna get back with them very quickly, because granted, the end of the calendar year is fast approaching, but I know they were expressing an interest in getting it done before the calendar year.
And then once you set that today, then next week I'll we'll adjust that petition waiver and contract, and then you guys can formally approve it, sign it, and then they can pay us.
Okay.
So if the CD rates fluctuating between 3 and 3.4, maybe somewhere in the middle,
Yeah,
3
Melinda's
and a quarter or
recommendation was
something.
3,
That was her recommendation, 3.
yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to do 3%.
Okay.
I'll second it.
It follows her recommendation, so, right. Been moved and seconded on that, setting the interest rate at 3%. Call for vote. Primer, aye.
Seaman, aye.
Burchak, aye.
Come April of '25, the NACE conference, the National Association of County Engineers, is being held in Illinois for '25. Chicago suburb of Schaumburg specifically, April 14th through the 18th. Would like to attend that conference, just asking for permission. Registration and hotel have just opened up, and before I jumped ahead of myself, I thought I would make sure that out-of-state travel, this one would involve flight. I'd drive to Illinois instead of flying. The last two have been, West Coast and in California and south in Alabama the 2 previous years.
Would you be the only one attending?
Probably, although I haven't, Ben would certainly be more than welcome to attend, and whether or not he would have expressed an interest with it being a little bit closer, I haven't heard his answer to that, but.
So it might be wise to, give authorization for both.
I have no problem with it, so I'll make a motion to let him go. Myron and Ben, if he so chooses.
Desires.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, that's my motion.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded to send possibly both engineers to that NACE conference. I'll call for vote. Primer, aye.
Seaman, aye.
Burchak, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Myron.
I'll tweak that later on next week.
Okay.
We're meeting Monday, so you don't have to come just for that unless you have other stuff.
Okay.
Mona and Michelle.
All right, so, we're gonna say month, 6 weeks ago, Michelle and I had come to you guys to move her hours from full-time down to part-time. Well, since then, just kind of trying to work out the kinks with the hours and things like that with the after-hours calls, the additional like coalitions and things like that that she is a part of. So what we would like to do is still keep her part-time, but adjust it from a max of 20 to a max of 30. So that would still keep her part-time, but it wouldn't force her to kind of cut down her walk-in hours during the day if she's getting like after-hours calls, or if she has after-hours meetings, things like that. She has like a suicide support group, things like that. So it wouldn't force her to kind of reduce those walk-in hours if we gave her kind of that buffer of that 10 hours.
Yeah, my main thing is just I want to be able to ensure that we have those walk-in hours 4 days a week when I'm capped at 20. It makes it so I've got to create that inconsistency of walk-in hours that I don't like. I want people to know that these 4 days a week, we are open 11 to 4, and so I don't have to flex it when I'm capped at 20.
Makes sense.
And it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't affect any budgetary stuff, anything like that, so.
She doesn't take our insurance, like 30 hours, so, right?
So we would need a motion to approve that change in her part-time hours.
So moved.
Okay.
I move that we change her to 30 hours part-time.
Second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Now call for vote. Primer, aye.
Seaman, aye.
Burchak, aye.
I love quick and painless with you guys.
You do.
Absolutely.
And
Glad
then
to still be here.
the second part, I printed out a copy for you guys. Haley, I have this copy for you for when we leave, that it has kind of the shift from, we got a 2% wellness discount last fiscal year, and this year we got a 4% for participation.
I got that too from Molly.
Okay.
Yep, I have that.
Beautiful. So that was kind of a total savings for last year of like $37,978.20. So the other, yeah,
You're representing the wellness committee,
Yes.
correct? 'Cause did you go to that meeting?
yes. So then the second part is the wellness program agreement between ISAC and us that, I'm not gonna read it all to you guys.
But we have a copy.
Yes. So we would just need that signed off on so we can return it to them. But the other kind of, not big ask, you guys have historically approved this, is the wellness day for people who have participated, to give that to folks again. And then was it a $20?
Yeah, a month off their premiums.
Yes.
Off the employee share.
So having you guys approve.
But that
those.
one, didn't they have to participate in all? Wasn't there a stipulation? Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just,
Anybody that, they had to do all the tiers.
yeah.
And we get a list of those from ISAC.
So I know one of the things that they had talked about doing, so historically it's been, you do all the things, right? And I think they talked about just the actual physical this year, right?
Correct.
So to get that wellness day and that benefit of just doing the physical, or you guys have the choice of keeping it, it's all or nothing, right? So,
Not even the assessment then, online assessment?
I mean, it'll still be encouraged, but not required for.
I think that's where people are hesitant. They're afraid what they're gonna do with that information, so.
Yes.
That's good to know.
So historically, it has been you have to do the physical and you have to do the wellness assessment. So what they're asking for is just the actual physical to get those two benefits versus all of it.
But that'll be the future year.
That'll be the future year.
Right. Yeah.
So moved.
Okay. You have a question?
No, I was just gonna add to it.
Okay, well, you can add to it.
I'll add to his motion, to give the chairman to sign the contract, the 2025 ISAC wellness agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, since it
Alright.
really wasn't worded properly, I don't think.
Huh?
I mean, I don't think it was worded to approve that, so, because right now it's just says wellness day and insurance discount. It doesn't say discuss or act on. Not to be a
Which
stickler,
I
but-
didn't know.
Yeah,
I
and we
got
got
an
that.
email that says, by the way,
Yeah.
I have paperwork
So
on your
you-
desk.
what you can
And I
do
walked in
is-
and went, they have to sign things?
Yeah.
No one
You
said
approve
they had
the-
to sign
The
things.
wellness day and that incentive, and then next Monday we'll get that other portion done.
Okay.
I mean, she's already presented it to you, so it should,
Right. Right.
just to be formal.
And the fact that the insurance is not, well, we got an email with copies of
Yeah,
ISAC.
that will come differently.
Yeah, so, but it says there's no change in premiums, however, we will get the increased discount. Is that correct?
Correct, but what
Okay.
we decide on, since we're partially
Yeah.
self-funded, that's when Ryan will come and
Right.
we'll go over that stuff.
Okay, fine. So your motion then would be to include the wellness day for physicals, correct?
Mhm.
And for those participating with that, and the insurance discount.
Yes, so, and then just to clarify, the only thing that will be required is the physical, not the online assessment. Is that where we're
Yeah,
moving?
and then Monday, we'll put in to get this signed.
Yep.
Okay,
And we can send it
perfect,
back to him.
perfect, okay. That was your motion, correct?
Exactly.
I thought so. And you seconded that.
Yeah.
All right, I'll call for a vote then. Primer, aye.
Seaman, aye.
Peter Shank, aye.
Very good, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, gentlemen.
guys.
See you Monday. Reports?
Nothing for once.
Same thing. Oh, Oh, I apologize, I did have the health board last Thursday. And so we went over some budgetary things, and I've got copies of that. Well, Haley would have those that she'll get to you fellas. Okay.
I've kind of gotten a hold of them already.
Good, thank you. Then it also is the environmental health budget, so, yeah. Okay, perfect.
As we start doing the budget sessions, like I talked to Bruce, when people start submitting them, I'll just make you guys binders, so you can start looking at all the departments ahead of time.
So moving on, we've got unfinished business.
Yes, I guess maybe.
Well, let's go with new business with you.
New business. Are we still good?
Yep, very good. Fire away.
Can I come up here?
Yep.
You want a full check too, John? Mike and John Elwick. When we bought, we farm next to the old dog pound out there, southeast of town. And when we bought the farm, we were under the impression that old country schools would revert back to the landowner when they were no longer a country school. So back in 2017, we met with the county supervisors, a couple of you guys were on the supervisor at the time, and then with the conservation department, and worked diligently and worked really close with Karen Phelps out at conservation and dug up all the old work and came to a conclusion, and we agreed with, because all the work we'd done, that, yeah, the land was deeded to Ida Edmonds, and she did actually hand it over to the county, so the going back to the original landowners was out of the play. So we accepted that and said, great, I'm glad we came to a resolution. That corner property is a pain for a farmer. Whether it's on tilling, whether it's on combining, harvesting, or spraying with drip and whatever, you turn things zigzag around. So we were sure trying to get that thing just into the farm. But the county said, and went back, and there were several meetings, and the county attorney was involved, and came back and said, this was recorded early, this is county attorney's quote, place was recorded early in 1949, Thompson said, Edmonds placed some strict restrictions, among them that the land should never be used for any other purpose except as a permanent wildlife refuge. We are bound by that, said Thompson. And again, later on, this is out of the newspaper, the thing about you guys, I know that you don't record the comments as much now as you used to in the old days, but I tell you what, when you don't record comments, and all you just say is, the minutes of that meeting said, no action taken, but then thankfully, you can go to the newspaper and get quotes of what some of the people said, so that's how we had to dig it kind of up. So you go back to the newspaper, then you say, again, Thompson said, we at that time proposed a land swap. We would like to give the county an equal amount of land as an easement along the railroad tracks there, that could be a bike trail or a hiking trail from the town to the park out across the county road there, so be access for people. And they conservation wasn't interested. But Thompson said an auction, we asked, would we even have to have an auction, or could we just do a swap? And this is where he's referring to that. He said, the cloud hanging over swap is that Edmonds had very specific language prohibiting the land's use for anything other than a wildlife refuge. We have to make sure that we are not violating the spirit of that, said Thompson. So the life went on. We, accepted everything like that. So now all of a sudden first the dog pound was closed, and then the AMVETs are in there, whichever one it was, and still a pain in the butt for us farming. And so now all of a sudden we just see in the paper there's an ad that's going to be up for auction. Period. No stipulations about wildlife refuge or anything. And when we left these meetings last time, we were kind of under the impression that we'd be kept in the loop a little bit, as far as, hey, if we ever do decide to do something with it, we might talk to you. I didn't hear anything, so it kind of disappointed us a little bit. So wonder what has changed when they were explicitly told us that would be a wildlife refuge, permanent wildlife refuge. It's in the deed, goes with the land. We're concerned. The second concern we have is pretty much that
It also talks the fact that it's hooked up to, in the sale bill, it's hooked to city water. And I don't know, we can't find an easement. The city water runs across our property. And we can't find an easement anywhere. If your people dig up an easement, we'd appreciate that too, because other than that, we'd probably go ahead and shut that off. If it's an abandoned, kind of abandoned water line sitting out there in the middle of the field. It's out on our property, it's not in the right of way or anything like that. So we got two issues we'd like clarified. Why is it not gonna be a wildlife preserve? Or why wouldn't they consider a swap with us for like amount of land? A 15-foot wide trail right along the railroad tracks would be the equivalent amount of 7/10 of an acre. And wouldn't affect us near as much farming, just have a headlands along the railroad tracks along there. I don't know how much people would use it, but even if they don't, it's extending the wildlife area from the wildlife area of the railroad tracks. I mean, there's all sorts of animals in there that could come out and eat some of our corn, I suppose, a little more, but we'd be okay with that. But it just looks like that'd be a more natural thing to do than all of a sudden have something else going in that corner. So that's why we would like an update or some consideration.
Well, if I may, John stopped in yesterday, said come in today, so I did a little digging into, what's going on. And as we all know, this property is owned by conservation. And we also know that it's within the city limits, isn't that correct?
We understand that. We've confused on that at one time too, but.
Yeah, and so the city should have information on water lines. Should. I didn't say they do, but they should. And I do realize that years and decades past, there wasn't always accurate records kept, from what I've been told. But that's neither here nor there. That's the people you probably want to visit with on that portion. As far as this board having anything to do with the sale of this property or swap or anything, that really kind of boils down to more of a conservation issue. And you're on that board. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, the board voted to sell it. They don't want it no more. I was kind of, myself, I have no vote on this board at all, none. I'm just a liaison that goes to the meetings, sit there and listen. I tried to get different uses for it that stays with the county, but just couldn't come up with anything, because it's a block building, it's cold, it's out there. Anything that I started thinking that we could put out there or use for it, you got, who's gonna mow the lawn, who's gonna pay for the LP, electricity, of course, who's gonna plow the snow, it's all comes down to, I like to keep it, but realistically, what can we do, what are we gonna put out there? It's gonna cost the taxpayer more money to keep it. So that's where, I just kinda just sat there and listened to them. They don't want it no more. Get rid of it. I dealt with them on these, acre, like you said earlier, the school lots, and I did a lot of research on that, and I found it says right in there, on the two that I did research on, that it goes back to the farm. So I did not do any research on this out here at all, none.
Well, I appreciate that. I guess I'm a little confused because I thought it made pretty clear to us before, it said it was owned by the county. And I remember discussion saying, yeah, it's conservation, but the county owned it and the county would sell it. It's what they told us back in 17.
And Gary and I were both on the board at that.
That's why we came here.
And from
So
what
we thought it was county.
recall, and county attorney at that time, gave this as you read. And it was my understanding at that time that it was kind of a joint ownership, conservation and county.
I will say this, my father bought a farm years ago. And then, he waited 10 years, which is what you gotta do before you can put an ad in the paper and ask if there's any interest, which he did. There was no interest, so he got that 1 acre. That's, I don't know if it's really neither, it don't pertain to
Yeah,
this, but
I know.
that's just the way it went down.
Well, like I say, we did the battle as a friendly battle. We worked with Karen quite closely, and we said in the article that we said, hey, we appreciate it. Now we understand it's been clarified. That's good. The clarification is, it shall be a permanent wildlife refuge. Now, back to the Conservation Board, Dan, and even you guys saying, well, it's that. Does nobody care that, you know, like I say, we are bound by, said Dave Thompson, the county attorney, we are bound by that purpose as a permanent wildlife refuge. Who do we see then? If you guys say, well, we're not involved, except you had to give, I think you had to give them permission to sell it, didn't you? Didn't they have to come? I asked Haley about that, and I think she said that
I knew nothing about it until yesterday.
Oh,
I thought they were in here a few weeks ago. Conservation Board was in here.
They were in here during the meeting, but they were worried about, they want to get the money, they don't want it to go in a
Yeah,
general
but
budget.
it
Oh.
was discussed a couple weeks
discussed,
ago.
okay,
Yeah.
I thought you said that they asked your permission to sell it. So, again, who do we go to? I mean, it's kind of crazy that yes, we lost that first battle, but it was spelled out in county attorney time, everybody's time spent on it, and come up with a decision. Just flies out the window. What do we do with conservation then, Tracy? I mean, they can just say tough? I mean, that's why we thought the supervisors is more of a formal law, you know, with your county attorney and your guidelines, is that, we thought that was who we should come to say, hey, this is wrong.
And, you know, we have tried to put different organizations, the VFW, for example. You know, I was very active in trying to get them in there. They got in there, but they found it, they didn't have their budget to support the facility. I understand, I do. You know, I don't know if the conservation has looked at having a small roadside park or anything of that nature. You know, no matter what happens, if it's sold or converted to a county roadside park, whatever, you still gotta farm around it, I get it. It'd be to your advantage to either buy the darn thing or trade, so that you don't have to farm around it. I get that. And
Or have it given to us. Another option,
sure,
go back to the land.
yeah, yeah, so,
All three of you guys have, you know, talked about everything except the fact is, why is nobody honoring what's on the deed? I mean, as I say, we should honor this. We are bound by this. We, the county attorney, we are bound by it. And yet, from that day on, in 2017, not one person has even given one thought to honoring that. I mean, it's just, I think, just to get us off their back, because we went right ahead and put the vets out there for a while. It's been this or that, and never once, except the fact that the rats probably running around, stuff like that, is not a wildlife area. Ever since, and the dog pound was debatable. I wouldn't call it a wildlife, you know, but it's still, it was maybe helping some animals. But once that was abandoned, it just seems like the county, conservation or not, but I still think they're under, somehow you guys, and I think you're right, we were kind of a joint ownership's how we kind of understood the last time we met. I think you guys have some responsibility also, instead of just saying, hey, work for the conservation, and reminding people. I don't know if anybody knows about this, because again, it didn't really show up in the board minutes. All this information about the stipulation of the deed, you can't find anywhere except in the newspaper. So that's tough to get that across to the people. I guess that's one of the reasons I wanted to come here, is maybe get on the minutes, you know, and or on your.
you're on the radar.
Yeah, I mean, let the town know, but dang it, I don't know.
And after he talked to me yesterday, I went through and searched the minutes, like he said, from like 17 and
Yeah.
18, and put little clips, so Shelby has all that too.
Yeah,
And I called Shelby first, so we aren't going around them. And I talked to her yesterday. And her answer was they've done a lot more research in the last couple of years to negate this. I don't know how you can negate it, what other research, because again, it was a thorough research that Thompson did, and you guys called Thompson in to have him do this and put it to bed once and for all.
I'm really gonna know, but in the left roadkill or whatever, it sounds like an improvement.
Yeah,
If you want
All the way
wildlife,
around.
Yeah.
put it against the railroad track,
Yeah.
not against the highway.
yeah. I mean,
Sometimes we have to do that. Like,
there's, yeah.
we get elected officials, we don't know, but we're stuck with it.
Well, I know that there've been conversations in the past, you know, what to do with it. I heard that they had talked about giving it back to the original property owners, and that is quite a expanse now. I mean, the family has expanded, so you're not giving it just to one person. But, yeah, I don't know whatever happened with that concept, but, you know.
That would be a good concept. Because it does, in so many cases, the only reason it wouldn't have either gone to the Doolins or the Doolins had originally. And the Doolins fought for years with the county to try to get it back and didn't get anywhere. And then, until we got involved, then we did find out this 1942, this with this, what I keep calling it, Edmonds, that said, and that was without a doubt, that yes, she was deeding it over to the conservation, I think at the time it's Fish and Game, then it went from that to the conservation, and said that with the stipulation, very strict according to David Thompson, that's what it was gonna be.
I know that Shelby said she had a meeting going on this morning. She would be unable to attend today. I personally like to hear more from her.
And we're gonna talk to her too, and we're gonna see if we can give her the board and whatever, but, it just, yeah, I still thought it was more you guys, the final say, but if you're saying you don't even, if it's just totally conservation, then, but I hope you'll own up, you know, a little bit of ownership on the whole thing, knowing that how we went on this last, particularly you two, that were involved with the last go around, and we're sitting in these meetings when we all agreed, Todd and you guys and us and Thompson, that, yeah, and Karen, that yes, this is how we're gonna go forward. Strict, you know, interpretation of those.
And again, my
Yeah.
thoughts were that it was a county conservation shared ownership. They had the control of it.
Actually, it would be better for the wildlife to have it along the railroad tracks than it would be out there by that highway.
Yeah, that's what you're saying, yeah. It makes sense.
It makes sense.
Unless they're just in it for the money. I mean, if the conservation just thinks they're gonna get a lot of money, which is kind of crazy, it's not compared to all the land around that. And for anybody else, this little chunk of a pain, compared to even all the other acres of wildlife around that part of town, and all along the river, everything is just, it's a great wildlife area, and conservation has that one park right there, right by the tracks. So it's a, you know, adding another acre, or swapping another acre just a half a mile, makes sense, but we were shot down on that the first time, and I'm not sure why then. And maybe they'll go for it now, but maybe nobody, again, knows about this. It's on the, you know, it's on the board now, or the director it was Karen back in those days, and she was very nice working with us, but she didn't want anything to do with it. She had other plans for it. I think she wanted a ranger officer for a while, one time or other, park ranger or something like that, so we'll do our best to get hold of them, but we're trying to get that auction shut down, but you just see it in the paper just last week, and I just got back in town, and John's had some funeral business to do, so we thought we'd lucky to get in on a supervisors meeting, and appreciate the
You're
time.
not interested in buying it?
Well,
I mean,
you could, well, you could, but
but
it's a sealed, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line, it's important enough to us to get that chunk out of the corner, but you're bidding, it's a sealed bid, it's not an auction.
I mean, you know, then you could decide, the sealed bid, when, you know, when you know in your heart that the people bidding against you don't understand these stipulations, if those stipulations were part of the bid package,
I think
then
they'd never
there wouldn't,
build a house on it.
nobody else would be bidding on it. But somebody might think they're gonna be building a house there, and they shouldn't be allowed to. Now, do we go back to the county attorney then? I mean, he's, you know, if we wanna go that far, which, yeah, the first thought was, yeah, we should probably, you know, try to buy it. But then we got talking about all the headaches and you miss it by a buck, and so we're gonna pay a premium to buy something that we really could have swapped out, and so, yeah. But if it wasn't a sealed bid, we'd probably be more interested than just throwing your money away possibly, because you know, if you're gonna go that route rather than this route, then you're gonna pay a lot for it, and the next other bid might be $1 or something. And that's a risk, I understand.
And the bidders think that there's water to it. And
Yeah.
to our knowledge, there is no guarantee there's water to it. And if there's no easement, there's probably no water.
I think there is water out there.
There is water, but I don't think they have an easement across our
That's my
property.
question to start with.
I would doubt the city just dug it in without
We
asking.
sure looked through all the records.
But you guys have owned this, you bought it from? how long
Merchant.
ago?
Oh, back in the 90s.
Okay, and do we know when the water was put in?
Yeah, 86. When Michael John was telling us.
I don't know. But there should be an easement. I mean, this
Yeah,
goes
it's
across our
gotta be a
land.
recorded easement.
The city
It
mains.
doesn't surprise me that there's nothing recorded.
So,
Yeah.
and if you trench it, put it in tile, you cut the hook line,
So basically, you know, if this goes through, we'll just probably cut the water off. So people won't have water to it. They're gonna read the sale bill, think there's water, and we have every right to shut the water off, just to, why not, you know? And then they can go down, probably down the right of way, but so sometimes stuff gets done kind of haphazardly around, and that's why you have easements, that's why you have lawyers, that's why you have all this stuff. And if we're just gonna ignore all these things, I don't see why we have lawyers and
Well, I would
deeds
definitely
and,
talk to Shelby.
yeah.
And obviously, county attorney's probably gonna have to get involved, you know, but from
I plan on it.
asking county attorney opinion.
I was hoping he was gonna be here. There's, when he left, I was kinda sad, because I wanted him to hear this.
I sent him the same
Did you?
info too.
Thank you.
he did, good.
So you think it says it right in the deed, an abstract?
Yeah,
It does?
yeah, that's what we drug.
There was a little paragraph, if I recall, at the bottom of that, where they have,
Okay.
Yeah, it was,
Shelby should have that, correct?
she should have the abstract, I would think.
yeah.
Right, I mean, because I was involved when they were in here for the last time too.
Sure.
I just had a question, when is this sale set for?
January 10th.
January 10th?
Bids are due January
Yeah.
10th.
Bids are due?
Yeah,
Okay.
then I believe it's a conservation meeting, it's New Year, I don't have their dates down. I can throw a stab
The
at
10th
it.
is a Friday, so would it be the 13th, their
Yep.
meeting?
Maybe something should be said to the county attorney ahead of this. I mean,
Well, that's what they were gonna do.
yeah,
is talk to them.
you're gonna they're gonna have to get their i's dotted and their t's crossed.
Yeah, there's too many unanswered
Yeah.
Just like yesterday.
Concerns.
I sent all that stuff.
for the bidders.
It's the
Did-
13th,
Did you,
which you.
did you send this to Ray, I mean, the newspaper
Not
clippings?
this part, but I can scan that too if you want.
Yeah, why don't you do that, because that's where there's quotes in there. I know it's
That's
not
why I like
official
to
record.
put those
I-
back and forth in my
I
minutes.
agree, particularly when there's an opinion given by the attorney. Because I went back to those minutes, thought, that doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
All right.
I just no action taken.
Yeah, right, right. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you.
All right,
I'll work
thanks,
with
Tracy.
Shelby and see, you know, I have not, my hands,
Yeah.
nothing to do with that. That was between her and the county attorney. I
Yeah.
did not do any research on that part of that
Yeah,
at all.
yeah. Do you think the county attorney did work with her on this
Yes,
go-round?
definitely,
Okay,
most definitely.
okay. That's good to know, that it wasn't, at least, and if
He
they
maybe
found.
just didn't know about that background. discussed. That's what I said in yesterday.
Yeah, that's why we're here, just get the word out, and that's the best place to come with you guys, because usually somebody's snooping on that thing that takes it and runs with it, always is.
You talking about the news media?
Somebody, I don't know who it is.
You have checked with the city, see if they've got records for an easement?
Yeah,
We could not find
and
it.
we didn't find it in
And it
the
would have to
abstract.
start with them for us to get recorded.
We have a description of where it's at out at the county water department. They know where the line is. They have no record of any easement.
We just soon have it out of our field.
Lexa could not
Because I know
find,
there's manholes out there.
Yeah, that's the main, where
But
the
this
street
is
goes,
spur.
where the street was gonna go when they laid it out. But this is like a 1-inch line that just heads clear across the field just to the dog pound.
I think it's 90 foot
That
inside.
really shouldn't even been,
the ditch.
I'm not sure
Well, I
what
know
it
there's one that goes to the
County
county.
home.
is. Same one.
Yeah, that's the main.
And if you shut that line off, is that gonna shut the?
No, it's just a 1-inch. They just
They
tap
just
the
tap.
one. The big 6-inch, I think, 4 or 6 goes clear across the farm, goes to the county home.
Yeah.
There's just only one tap on that whole line, and it's a, go not there. They
Well, I know
make-
that there's along the ditch out there, there's running water.
Yeah,
Keep
from
that
a,
line open.
yeah, from a hydrant, there's a hydrant on the ditch.
Yeah.
And they flood, that's where
No,
they.
they
flood.
could come down the ditch, no problem.
Yeah.
Get water.
We just soon
They
get out
should
of
know
the field.
that, and before they throw a bid on the property.
Well, why they went out the middle of the field to start with instead.
Yeah, straight shot.
So
Yeah, obviously it's before you.
Yeah.
zoned it.
Yeah, I think Merchant owned it at
is
the
there an
time.
easement for the big line going?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's one easement for the sanitary sewer, and there's another easement for the water line. They aren't in the same easement. The water line is there before they laid out that whole subdivision out there. So it just goes straight across, but we're good with it. I mean, it's just a little 1-inch thing, just,
Yeah, well, like I said, Gary Garwood was, on the water department at that time, he should know.
Yeah, he was, Michael John was the one that trenched the line.
Okay,
So,
there
and
you
he
go.
was working with Gary
Right,
on,
family. Yeah.
apparently, they
You'd like
trenched
to-
it.
but we just wanna know if there's an easement. We don't
Yeah.
care who did it, when they did it, whatever, did they record an easement?
Sure.
If there's no easement, then
It's-
you can do whatever you want with it. And that's what we don't wanna do anything and then find out that we,
Or somebody has to seek an easement.
right, which is more negotiations,
I get it.
which you can kinda get into with this
Yeah.
conservation too.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Thanks, guys.
for coming in.
You bet.
Well, yeah, thank you, Vince.
Nice holidays.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Hey,
Hi, John.
Take it easy, guys.
You do, touch it.
Did Ray respond?
Never heard back, but I looked to my emails. The only MOU I had was from Chelsea with ASAC, but it was an example from Jones.
I think we need to table it. Okay, can I get a motion to table item 5?
Okay. I'll make a motion to table the MOU for the opioid treatment service with ASAC.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. I will call for a vote, please. Primer, aye.
Seaman, aye.
Beershank, aye.
I'll put it back on next Monday. And then, do you have what time do you want to start?
I asked that we start early next Monday. Do you guys have a problem with that?
None whatsoever.
Okay. So
What time do you want to start?
I'd like to start about 8. Well, that's when courthouse officially opens, so,
Fine.
yeah. So do we need to put a motion on that or something?
No, just so I can post the agenda properly.
Okay, very good. Is there any other comments? Okay. Last item on the agenda, item 12.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded for adjournment. I'll call for vote. Primer, aye.
Seaman, aye.
Beershank, aye.
So on the 23rd, it's 8 o'clock.
Yep.
Next time